We're living in a day and age where we're limiting what we think is possible. We're getting in our own way. And my thing that I want to get people to do, and you've probably heard somebody say it before, but motion creates emotion. The hardest thing to do is start moving, engaging. Once you start to move and engage, you realize two things. One, it's not as scary as you thought it was. And two, you actually start enjoying what you're doing. The only thing that was scaring you was the first action. Dude, I've learned to show up every single day. The moment you realize the next step isn't going to kill you, and that next step is the first step to evolving, changing, growing, and learning, and becoming literally the best version of yourself, that's the most beautiful thing. It's not going to kill you. And putting yourself in the game, you're giving yourself an opportunity to achieve something that everybody else said was impossible.
It's an old saying, they say life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. We all have the responsibility to take the messages. I believe that we live in it's pretty clear, it's not even a belief, we live in a psychophysical world. The world is largely how we see it, how we view it. It's thought, right? Our perspectives, our past is constantly influencing the present, how we're seeing things today. And if we change the way we look at things, the things in themselves that we look at will change. The power is within us. Right. And that's what I tell people. I just want to show people the potential that might be buried deep inside of them, but it was always there. Yeah.
An ideal life for me is a life, and this applies to a company, an organization, an institution for me, is an ideal life is when we all have a head, a heart, and a hand, all three elements together, working in alignment. Without one or the other, we start to lose something. So a head is the clarity of vision.
What you want.
What you want. Knowing what you want, the way you picture life, and being able to navigate and make the decisions to get there. That's a good head. A good heart is being able to understand what your intuition and heart wants, being able to connect and tap into that understanding deeper and beyond the vision you may have painted for yourself. So I often say to people that you'll get to where you want in life, just not in the way you imagined. And that's because the path that's paved up and down is far different to the path we pave. So you can have a great head and a great vision and a great mission and know where you want to go, but if your heart's not able to have that resilience and be able to adapt and have compassion and care and all of that, then you're not going to be able to make the toughest decisions without your heart. But to be able to realize that we need to care and be sustainable and long-lasting requires a heart. And a hand is that service, wanting to pass that on, that which you have, wanting to give it forward, pay it forward. The idea of serving with what you have. I often say to people, your passion is for you, your purpose is for others. Your passion makes you happy, but when you use your passion to make a difference in someone else's life, that's a service, that's a purpose, and that's the hand. So those are my three elements of an ideal life.
Physiologically, being excited is the exact same thing as being afraid. Let me say that again, because it is so important. In your body, being excited is the exact same thing as being afraid. Your body doesn't know the damn difference. Your heart races, your armpits sweat, you're like, you may get tight in your throat. Your cheeks may get pink like mine do when I get excited. The only difference between excitement and fear is what your brain says. And the problem is, if you have a habit of worrying, guess what you're gonna tell yourself is going on? That you're like freaking out, that you're not excited, that something must be wrong. Oh gosh, why would you say something's wrong? Because you got a habit of saying that all the time. Even as I became a speaker for a living, or I'd be on CNN, when I first started doing it, I would be freaking out backstage. But even though, just last week, he's standing backstage, about to go on, 8,000 people, heart races, armpit sweat, my hands get clammy. I'm not nervous though, not at all, I'm excited. And so I developed this technique, and research out of Harvard, not based on my technique, but something very similar, proves that if you basically, right before you're about to do something, take a test, run a race, public speaking, a business negotiation, ask somebody to marry you, whatever it may be that gets your heart racing, just do this. Go, I'm excited. I'm excited to give that speech. I'm excited to ask him or her. I'm excited to do this race. I'm excited. Because what happens is you give your brain context, so your brain doesn't escalate the stuff going on in your body. Your brain's not worried. Make sense?
Yeah.
So you can combine this with the 5-second rule. So we know how to do worrying. You catch your thoughts drift, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, anchor thought. If you start to feel your heart racing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to awaken the prefrontal cortex, and then start going, I'm really excited to do this. I'm really excited to do this. Like, there's so much fear that we live with. I want to teach people how to live with more courage, because courage is nothing more than the ability to do things that are uncertain. In today's world, where you have the internet, you can literally learn, launch, do anything. Anything. The only thing that's truly stopping you are the limiting patterns that you think, the self-doubt, the fear, the habits that you have. And you can break them. You can break them 5 seconds at a time. And so the impact that I want to have is I want to teach people a simple way to discover the power that's locked inside them, and then to unleash it and go out and live the life they've always dreamt of.
I run what I call the 20-20-20 formula. I shared it with you, and you know, many people around the world have found great value from it. And it's pretty simple. I mean, it sort of rolls back to what the Spartan warriors once said. And they said that the person who sweats more in training bleeds less and more. And whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an artist, whether you're a baker, whether you're a yoga teacher, whether you're a mom, whether you're a street sweeper, you know, when you walk out in the world, there's a call on your life to bring your best game to the world and release as much talent as possible. And a lot of people, what they do is they get up every morning and they sort of run their day by default. And they're chasing the day, and they let life act on them in a very reactive way. And so I think what we want to do is see ourselves as warriors of some sort, where we take from 5 to 6 every morning and we prepare ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so to give a tactic to your many listeners, it's the 20-20-20 formula. First 20 minutes as soon as you get up, 5 to 5:20, intense exercise. And that's going to do a whole bunch of things. You know, a lot of my work is very science-based. And it's going to create a pharmacy of mastery. So you're going to release dopamine, which is the motivational neurotransmitter. You're going to reduce cortisol in your brain, which is the fear chemical. You're going to release serotonin, which even if you're cranky, you start to feel good. You're going to release BDNF, which scientists are calling miracle grow for the brain, which actually allows your brain cells to repair from stress. I mean, this is exciting to me.
Yeah, it is.
Right, so that first 20 minutes, you rewire your brain. What else do? You jumpstart your metabolic rate. What else do? You prepare yourself for resilience against stress, and it just goes on and on. Second part of the 20-20-20 formula, you plan. You pull out a journal. You can do an imprint of your day, which is very powerful, or you can look at your big 5 or your plan. That releases hope. It releases focus, right? Because an addiction to distraction is the death of creative production.
Totally.
Okay? And then the final part of the 20-20 formula, learning. I mean, he or she who learns the most wins. What made Steve Jobs, or an Elon Musk, is they know more than anyone around them. And so I believe that, you know, the more you know, the more you can achieve. And there's great value investing as much money as you have into audiobooks or programs like you do at the Genius, you know, the 25K conference and the Genius Network, or whatever it is. But, you know, every quarter I make sure I get out of my office and I go off to a conference. I invest a lot of money in learning and training and coaching, and that's the 20-20-20 formula.
At least twice a week, the trainees were required to run the obstacle course. The obstacle course contained 25 obstacles, including a 10-foot wall, a 30-foot cargo net, a barbed wire crawl, to name a few. But the most challenging obstacle was the slide for life. It had a 3-level, 30-foot tower at one end and a 1-level tower at the other. In between was a 200-foot long rope. You had to climb the 3-tiered tower, and once at the top, you grabbed the rope, swung underneath the rope, and pulled yourself hand over hand until you got to the other end. The record for the obstacle course had stood for years when my class began in 1977. The record seemed unbeatable until one day a student decided to go down the slide for life head first. Instead of swinging his body underneath the rope and inching his way down, he bravely mounted the top of the rope and thrust himself forward. It was a dangerous move, seemingly foolish and fraught with risk. Failure could mean injury and being dropped from the course. Without hesitation, the student slid down the rope perilously fast. Instead of several minutes, it only took him half that time. And by the end of the course, he had broken the record. If you want to change the world, sometimes you have to slide down the obstacles head first.
Every moment of your life is a choice. How do you want to spend that moment? Who do you want to be? It is not the circumstances we confront that dictate the lives we experience. It just cannot be. There are counterexamples all over the place. I'm just a blind guy, like that's no big deal. But you think about prisoners of war who endure the most unspeakable of human atrocities, Nazi concentration camp survivors, and on and on and on. And you find examples of remarkable people who, despite these circumstances, make a choice to find purpose in life, to find joy, to be a source of strength for others in their lives. And these shining folks, again, to my mind, prove categorically it's not the circumstances we confront that dictate how we, the lives we experience. So choose to be happy, literally in every moment. And again, I'm not saying it's easy, again, and I'm not saying it's always easy for me, but it's certainly a worthwhile endeavor. I mean, you spill on yourself, or you knock something over, or you're late for a meeting, or it can derail you. It can be something quote unquote awful. Meanwhile, most of the world is worried about healthcare and food and clothing. But or you can choose to laugh about it. You can choose to have fun with it. You can choose to let it go. And again, I think every moment is an amalgam of precisely those choices. And I think it behooves us to spend some time thinking about our answers. You're the master of your reality. And once you buy that, once you're willing to take responsibility for the fact that you are literally creating the life you are experiencing, the reality, your reality is your creation. Again, the rest is details. At several sort of key moments in my life, there were two really simple questions that I've used to try to take back control of my reality. In those situations, one being, what is it truly that I aim to accomplish? I think very often when we find ourselves debilitated by fear of failure, that critic, anxiety, whatever, it can be a relief to say, whoa, wait a minute. I am loading so much junk onto this, onto what's going on here, onto what's at stake. Let me just take a step back and remind myself, what am I in this for? Right? What am I trying to accomplish? What is my endeavor here? What's my purpose? And oftentimes, in my experience, when you do that, there's kind of a big sigh of relief. You say, oh yeah, this really isn't all that big a deal. This isn't so bad. And the second one really is what's my best next step, right? Let's focus on today, this moment, right now. In truth, that's all there ever is, right? So we spend a lot of time on doom and gloom, future foreboding, awfulizing, and not enough time on this moment right now. What is my best next step? What can I do right now to make progress? And the truth of the matter is, the world changes, a million times a day. You're going to change a million times a day. Who knows what's going to happen on the journey from A to Z? Just focus on getting from A to B and get that done. And we'll worry about C to Z later.
Being able to overcome ego, being able to overcome envy, being able to overcome jealousy, being able to overcome the negative of competitive state. There's a positive competitive state and there's a negative competitive state. Today, when people are looking on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, all you're looking at is, oh, she got that many likes, or he got that many likes, she got engaged, or he got married, or, oh my God, look at her body, or look at that. And it's like, that stuff's destroying us inside. Envy, jealousy, ego, greed. To be able to have enough clarity to purify yourself of those things is gonna alleviate the biggest anxieties and depressions of our time and mental health problems. And we know that. We know that because all the mental health research today suggests that things like isolation, overexposure, we now can have more pain consumption in one day because of what we're exposed to than the pain we would have had in a lifetime. That's huge. Like that's ridiculous to think that in one day, because of the media, news and social media, we consume more negative than we did in a lifetime. For me, being able to have time, energy and clarity to focus on self-purification, that is the best